March 5, 1930, the body of Indianapolis gangster Orlando Jack Horton is found face down in a strawberry patch about 4 miles outside of Lafayette, Indiana. He had been shot 5 times in the back. 3 bullets up top between the shoulder blades and 2 lower. Horton was no stranger to the citizens of Lafayette and Indianapolis, where he plied his unlawful trades. He also had his moment in the spotlight of Gangland, Chicago in 1924 when his partner John Duffy was bumped off. Originally from Indianapolis, Horton was born in 1897 and received his first unflattering press in January of 1918 when he failed to register for the draft during World War I. A year later, he entered a jewelry store in Terre Haute and asked the clerk to show him the most expensive diamond rings. A tray was brought out and he slipped 3 of them on a finger and dashed out the door. The store's manager was just returning from lunch and gave chase. Soon a number of men were after Horton and they caught him after a pursuit of several blocks. He was given a suspended sentence. 6 days later, he was caught in a stolen vehicle. Though the driver was the only one charged with auto theft, Horton was part of a stolen car ring operating out of Indianapolis, where he was paid $200 for each auto he brought in. The ring managed to get about 25 cars before authorities discovered them and began making arrests. After several of his confederates were picked up, Horton fled west to California. With the rest of the gang behind bars, detectives tracked Horton to Los Angeles and arrested him on December 22, 1919. Horton went on trial in early 1920 and, despite testifying against another gang member, he received a sentence of from 1 to 14 years. He was given a pardon circa 1921 and next pops up in Chicago, where he started bootlegging with a small mob which included an ex-Philadelphian gangster named John Duffy. His outfit became associated with the infamous Northside Gang, then headed by Dean O'Banion. He and his wife shared an apartment with Duffy and his missus. In March of 1924, Duffy was bumped off after murdering his wife in what became a sensation in the press involving many high-profile gangsters. Right around the time Duffy was killed, Horton and his wife went to New Orleans. Chicago detectives found them there and extradited them back to the Windy City to face questions about the murders. Once they were exonerated, Horton blew town. At year's end, he was arrested again in Lafayette on a drug charge and shipped off to Leavenworth for about 3 years. After his release, Horton returned to Indianapolis, where he bounced between that city and Lafayette. A jack of all crimes, Horton, we're told, hijacked liquor shipments that traveled between Indianapolis and Chicago. He was also involved in armed robberies and even got into the manufacturing side of the booze business when he bought a house in Lafayette and placed an enormous still inside. Everything was running smoothly until August 12, 1929, when the house went up in flames. While battling the blaze, the fire department discovered the still and Horton was arrested on August 31st. Horton was only in police custody a day or so when several Lafayette speakeasies were raided and a number of arrests were made. Whether or not it was a coincidence, it didn't look good for Horton. The gangster posted a $10,000 bond and was released with a court date pending March 17, 1930. Things were lined up against Horton. He had a reputation for turning on gang members going back to 1920 when he testified against Confederates in the stolen car ring. There were the speakeasy raids right after he was arrested the previous summer. It was also reported that he was a drug addict. If so, there is no telling what he might spill to get a fix while in custody. Whether for revenge or to prevent him from appearing in court, it was strawberry fields for Horton. Who killed him and why, is anyone's guess. If it was his own gang, it was for naught. His chief partner in the still was found guilty of violating the Prohibition law and sent to Leavenworth. Locals believed he was bumped off by an Indianapolis gunman named Ted Geisking. Who do you think killed Orlando Jack Horton? His own gang? Angry speakeasy owners? Rival gangsters he may have been hijacking from? Leave your thoughts below.